Well, we'll try again. Actually, you literally don't need to hear the words. Just let it play, and I'll explain what's going on here. It does actually have sound in the video, because that would be a very weird YouTube video without any sound. Kind of artsy. Maybe we should try that for our next one. I'm sure my family would probably prefer that. We don't need sound. We know what you're saying. We use these YouTube videos, and the point of this YouTube video is actually that that video was created with my phone and was plugged into my computer and uploaded in like a minute. Obviously, I have an intern in Colombia holding my phone pointed at me against a banner on a wall. Like, I was actually working out of my apartment at this point. It doesn't need a logo at the end, not even pictures. These tools are so easy to use. Now, that you can convey a message on there, and people will listen to it. You know, the average amount of time someone spends on our website is close to like 3 minutes, but we have tons of 4 or 5 minute, 2-minute YouTube videos that thousands of people have watched. People are much more likely to sit down and listen to a video than I think they are to like read your entire history on a website. And if they see it on a Twitter status update, they might even be more likely to go there and listen to it and find out more what it's all about. We use Salesforce really. It's been a huge blessing for us because we did start out using Excel spreadsheets, and it took us about 3 months to figure out that these Excel spreadsheets were going to kill us. And we did not want to keep doing business that way. So we moved all of our contacts to Salesforce, about 11,000 people. And we moved our newsletter onto Salesforce. We have about 9,000 people in our quarterly newsletter. And we use it to manage all this information. And we haven't hired a programmer to do it. It does take some time to figure out how to work it. But it's not that complicated. And it actually, when I was talking to a colleague recently about it, that one of their complaints about Salesforce was that it was too easy to create custom fields. That now they have all these custom fields about all of these things that they probably don't need. That before you sort of thought through it more quickly, thought through it more thoroughly about what you include. But we've used it for our evaluations. We create campaigns such that when we have the Idea Blob or America's Giving Challenge campaign, we'll mark who we think should be voting for us. And then we create different statuses for they've donated, they voted, we've called them, we've sent them an email, and we put them through this process, just like running a campaign would, that you could never do in an Excel spreadsheet. And this is all pretty easy and free. So Ben wanted me to briefly say kind of what works and what doesn't. What I think works really well with the cloud for us has been it empowers your network. This is very much the Facebook, but also Google Apps. Like our volunteers, our supporters, our fellows, our ambassadors for Atlas Corps. They go out there and without even much prompting are putting pictures up there, are joining causes, are inviting their friends to join an Atlas Corps group, are inviting their friends to come to an event. This empowers your network in a way that you can never do outside of the cloud. It also, I think this broadly Web 2.0 or the cloud or whatever term people are using is a new way to ask an old question, which is please help. And that whether it's, you know, I used to do political stuff, and there was the campaign and elections. And the way you get people to vote is simply by asking them to vote. And the way you get people to donate is by asking them to donate. And it's even better if you can ask them in more than one way, from more than one approach, in the way that's most comfortable to them. What doesn't work is asking too many times from too many different sources all at once. So we were on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn. You know, we were using Google. We had all these different things. And during America's Giving Challenge, we would send out one note on like 10 different sources, and about a couple hundred people were on all of our social networks, and it was really upsetting them. What Salesforce has allowed us to do with the campaigns is that we figure out what's the best way to reach people, and that we reach them via the method they want to be reached by. And hopefully we don't duplicate efforts too much. And simply relying too much on email. Atlas Corps, when we do our campaigns or our events or fundraising, we still use our mailing list, and Salesforce allows us to do that. We still do in-person events. We still do phone calling. You know, I'll do anything to ask somebody for money, I suppose. But we try to do it in a coordinated way, and we don't rely too much on email. What we've had to consider is kind of the switching cost and the training for the team, the data transition, I think to a certain extent more training, and not necessarily paid expensive training. That you could almost substitute the word time for that and simply learning how this works. Because, again, it's just a comfort level of trying out new things. So our staff comfort level with technologies and your staff is really important. and the giving up control. I know a lot of larger, more established organizations say, well, if I allow all of our volunteers and friends to define Atlas Corps, then invariably people will define it as a reverse Peace Corps. I want to move beyond that and say we're a two-way Peace Corps, but I'm okay with that. Because when I have other people talking about Atlas Corps, and I think when you have other people talking about your mission, your organization, and issues that you care about, then whether they get the exact words of your mission statement right doesn't matter. What matters is that you're empowering your network to support the causes that you care about, no matter what the cause may be. And for us, long-term benefits. We approached Salesforce because we wanted to focus on getting to scale. That seems silly for an organization that's just getting launched to be worrying about scale. We still kind of need to worry about getting established. But we eventually see having 1,000 fellows or 5,000 fellows from all around the world working together on these issues. Well, you can't use spreadsheets for that. You can't use old tools to do new methods of service. So we think that there's incredible long-term benefits from this. And by partnering with Facebook and Salesforce and Google, or any one of these entities, I suppose, we feel like we're embracing not only innovation, but kind of in the cutting edge of technology. And these organizations are evolving together. And actually, Salesforce, and especially Salesforce and Google, but also increasingly Facebook, communicate really well together. So it's nice to kind of have tools that do integrate like that. Results, because results are really important. We doubled our mailing list. We had about 500 people we were sending letters to in the beginning. Now we're at well over 1,000 people we send our physical mail to. We went from, this is just in 2008, from January 1st, 2008 to December 31st. We went from 400 donors to about 2,000, well not, actually 2,000 donors. Because of the Case Foundation America's Giving Challenge, we won $50,000 and we raised $33,000. Those $10 donations, those small donations on causes, on Razoo, on those different sites, those add up, at least for an organization like us. They add up big time, and they spread your network. We got press coverage in the New York Times, the Washington Post, the Chronicle, and Philanthropy because of these contests, because our people are aware of what Atlas Corps is really all about. And then in December, we did it again. We won another $20,000 in December on the Idea Blob contest. And this month, we're in the Razoo contest. If you all go home and give us $10, we'll win again. These contests are getting more and more competitive, but the result is that it strengthened our organization, and we doubled the size of the program. So that is simply how Atlas Corps has used Google, Facebook, and Salesforce from a non-techie, young social entrepreneur trying to get the organization established. It has created great results for us, and you'll have a great panel coming up next who can tell you more details how it really all works. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Scott. And just to keep us rolling this morning, I think what we'll do is we'll allow people to ask questions of Scott, obviously on the breaks and all of that, but as part of the dialogue for the panel, you feel free, we'll have Scott come up and just include him in part of that if you have any specific questions for him. So I'll introduce our panel moderator, but I just wanted to underline two things that Scott said in the context of kind of managing in the new environment. And I'm sure everybody here has heard of Wikipedia. What I don't know if you know is when Wikipedia, I think it was about 2 to 3 months ago, it wasn't very long ago, when they were looking at their kind of long-term revenue stream, how can they stay afloat as an organization, they launched an online campaign. They raised $3 million in 8 days. $3 million in 8 days online. Those were largely, I think 60 to 70% made up of $10 and $25 contributions. So there's real power from a fundraising perspective if you can really kind of leverage the internet. The second thing I wanted to say, and this again goes back to the kind of raise where you should be looking in terms of flags. If your organization is giving out CDs, your job when leaving this room, if you do nothing else leaving this room, I would love if you would squash that initiative. I can't tell you how many CDs I get from nonprofits, really well-meaning nonprofits who have put a lot into sort of making these videos that go directly into the trash. So what you could do is you could send people a link to a YouTube site. You could post that on Facebook as your status. I actually quite often look at people's videos, their status, and I click on their videos. And you can do what Scott did in terms of the production value is much less important to a donor